This is Gary Whitgriff, international millet researcher and author of 2 books on millet. Today I'll review U.S. Millets summary for 2025 and an outlook for 2026. You can go to the various websites to check this out. I'm also on the North American Millets Alliance Board of Directors. Today I'll review the new Proso millet grain standards and haven't been updated since thresh machines were used in the 1950s. Also, through North American Millets Alliance, we had various agronomic seminars that are available to review at any time on YouTube. And today I'll also review the acreage by type of millet, and then I'll summarize the 2026 outlook. From farm to processor, the new Proso millet grain standards are designed to have farmers segregate their millet by quality all the way through the distribution chain. North American Millets Alliance has also had various seminars on the agronomics of different millets, from proso to pearl to grazing and cover crops. USDA documents 44 states that planted millet in 2025, proso, pearl, foxtail, Japanese teff, and a general category common millet, which also includes brown top. And this does not include the cover crop, wildlife, and mixed forage categories that are produced in all 50 states. USDA shows Proso was produced in 109 counties in 20 states. 92% was produced in Colorado, Nebraska, and South Dakota, with only 1.2% irrigated, which indicates the very drought tolerance of Proso millet. USDA's Farm Service Agency is updating their categories of millet, adding a general category called Proso rather than Dove Proso, which was developed in 1972 and is a southern variety, not grown in the northern states. Farmers are allowed to report millet acres as common millet by USDA, and there may be legal reasons why the various millets in 37 states and 769 counties are reported in the general category as common rather than designated varieties or species. 34 states report producing pearl millet, mostly for forage, and 60% of that is grown in Texas, Kansas, and Nebraska. Foxtail millet is a forage species that is produced primarily in the grassland areas of the upper Midwest and east of the Rockies. Japanese millet is also used as a forage millet, but not as drought tolerant as the other millets. And 66% is grown in Nebraska, South Dakota, and Minnesota, but a total of 99 counties nationwide. Teff acreage has expanded significantly in the last few years. Now produced in 35 states, about a little over a third is produced in Arizona, Nebraska, and South Dakota, both for forage and for grain. Summarizing all U.S. millets planted in 44 states, but keep in mind 71%, primarily of that is Proso, produced in Colorado, Nebraska, and South Dakota, but it's grown in 1,026 counties. 8% is reported irrigated, with about half forage and half seed and grain. There's potential for all millets in all states, with 1,026 counties reporting in 44 states. Very, very diverse types of millets, like brown top in the southeast, pearls across the south, and then as you move north into forages, all the way up into Canada, producing both proso, foxtail, and pearl millet for seed, grain, and forage. Most of the millet in the U.S. is blended in with other forages called mixed forage, as reported by USDA, where there's 35 million acres of various mixed forages. USDA reports about 7 million acres of cover crops grown in virtually every state. Millet is included in many of those cover crops, especially the summer blends, with maybe a pound, 2, 3 of the various millets depending on the geography. USDA also has a program for wildlife plots and habitat that farmers can plant different millets, and that's on about 200,000 acres in the U.S. Of the roughly 1 million acres of designated millets produced in the U.S., Proso and common make up over 80%, according to USDA, followed by pearl, teff, foxtail, and Japanese. Brown top is not a designated category, but falls under the common millets, with the mixed forages, cover crops, and wildlife accounting for another 40 million acres or so, with millets mixed in many of those blends. Very likely there's over 10 million acres of millets planted in the U.S. annually, both in forage mixes, cover crops, wildlife uses, but individually reported types of millet where there's 1 million acres alone. But keep in mind, millet is not a program crop, meaning that USDA does not subsidize any millet plantings, but as water use becomes more intensive, you'll see more millets, I believe, in 2026 and beyond being produced in all areas of the U.S., both for food uses, wildlife uses, and certainly forages. And right now, 2026 looks like millet's limited by seed supply and basic agronomic knowledge. Not only that, but also the distribution chains of various millets in the food and grain industry. Feel free to go to my website, relatingtoancients.com, and review the various topics of millet there, as well as ResearchGate and the YouTube videos on production of millet agronomically, as well as pricing and forage uses, etc., both from the planting all the way through the harvest stage.